Okay, so. All right, we're gonna talk about the whole Tookie. I'm gonna need it quiet too. So.
Hey, hold it, Finch, because they can't hear on the tape.
I want to make sure that those lines are hitting the red dot. See those two lines at the bottom? There. See how it's hitting the red dot?
Yeah.
When he speaks.
Okay.
Tookie got executed in December of 2005 with not a whole lot of physical evidence. Most of it was all circumstantial, and the key witnesses, the star witnesses to his case were mostly snitches. Can you speak on the individuals who were responsible for convicting Tookie and their backgrounds?
First, you had James Garrett and Esther Garrett, husband and wife, who were working with law enforcement, being involved in robberies and other sorts of criminal activity, then turning around telling the police. You had Alfred Cowens, who we have to remember was involved in the murder, but was given an out-of-state release, really out the country. He ended up going to Canada for his testimony. And what's interesting is Big James turned the gun in, the shotgun that was used in the murders, saying that Tookie had confessed to him about the murders. Then you had Tony Sims, who they say had a confession beaten out of him. They had no physical evidence, nothing other than a snitch's word and a possible serial killer word as him committing the crimes.
Now, James Garrett was known to have already his own criminal background, his own criminal past. Why did the state rely so much on a guy who was responsible for his own crimes in the conviction of Stanley Tookie Williams?
Well, I think what it was, like I said, he was working with law enforcement because in 1977, Big Five in Inglewood had been robbed, and they just had built the Fox Hill Mall, and they had a hotel over there, and Big James was staying right over here on 84th and St. Andrews, and had set up a meeting with law enforcement to where everybody that went there that had been involved in the Big Five robbery thought they were going to sell weapons, but in return they was going to be arrested by various law enforcement agencies. And this is very important because Big James was there, Tookie was there, Donald Archie was there, Samuel Watkins was there, the men that committed the robberies, and law enforcement were taking them in the rooms, video cameraing statements about how they were doing robberies. Now, Tookie never gave a statement, and they let Tookie go because they knew he wasn't doing no robberies. But Big James was doing robberies. Everybody went to prison except for Big James. Now, this is important, the Tookie case, because of the fact that some of the ammunition that was taken out this robbery in 1977 ended up in 79 being the bullet from this robbery that linked the shotgun that was up under Tookie's name to the murders. So we can infer that Big James would have had the bullets longer than Tookie, because Tookie didn't have nothing to do with the robbery, as opposed to Big James, James Garrett, having all the weapons. So when he took them to sell the guns, he already knew that nobody was coming back. So you can infer that he didn't turn in all the weapons. And that's part of the conspiracy or cover-up, I believe, that exists with James Garrett and amongst the other witnesses.
Now everybody knew that Tookie bought a shotgun that under his name with his driver's license. Tell me, why did Tookie buy that shotgun in the first place?
Well, Tookie was running a boys' home in right behind Centennial High, and he had got shot. And he went and they shot up the boys' home that he was running, and he went and bought the shotgun to protect the kids in that halfway house, juvenile halfway house in Compton. And that's why the shotgun was up under his name. I believe he bought that in like 75, 74 around up in there, and that's why that gun was registered to him. It wasn't bought for no robbery.
When the police arrested Tookie, they went to James Garrett's house and they found the shotgun under his bed. Why was that such a big issue in terms of the trial against Tookie?
Well, I don't know where they found, because I haven't got that far in the transcript to know. You're saying they did find the gun up under Tookie bed, or I heard that Big James...
Under James Garrett's apartment. They found it at his place.
Probably because Big James was using it. Because Big James was committing murder robberies, and he was a suspect, which I think is also grounds to where Tookie should have at least been granted a stay until the information that I'm telling y'all, because it's never been heard publicly before, until I gave my testimony, because Big James was a suspect in at least 5 to 7 murders that law enforcement knew about, because he had also told on me about a jewelry store robbery. And Homicide came after they arrested me, and I was in the county jail with Tookie. This right after Tookie got arrested in around March, early 79. I was arrested summer 79, and another girl named Shirley Matthews was arrested before both of us behind James Garrett telling about criminal activity. So I think Big James might have been using the weapons, doing robberies, and that's why it was up under his bed.
Let me just check something real quick. Now, it seems that James Garrett must have had a special type of relationship with law enforcement if everyone knew he was involved in other types of crimes, and at the same time he was also ratting out on other people, including yourself. What was this guy all about?
Well, he was older than us, and he had daughters that was our age. And what he would usually do, there was quite a bit of robbery going on in the city of Los Angeles, and they had groups or gangs of robbers. And his house was something like a team post, to whereas after you had one and committed a robbery or whatever, everything you had taken, you would usually take it over there and divide it up or leave it with him, because he was older. And so he played the role of not only a father figure as far as letting us have a little freedom in his house, but also he knew people who could buy stuff, hot items and everything else. And he was, like I say, he was committing robberies. Actually, we're gonna have a witness that's gonna testify that he killed somebody in his house and then threw the body, which was dumped on 105th. And we have true evidence of that, because we're gonna talk about at least 4 or 5 murders that we know he committed.
Now, do we know of any murders that he was charged for or convicted for where he was sent to prison?
Well, I know law enforcement came and talked to me after he told on me. They came down to the LA County and pulled out a map that had possibly 5 to 7 X's on it. Ojai, California. They had a couple bodies that were found in Ojai, California. A couple bodies found in 3 Rivers. A body that was dumped over on like 105th and something abnormally. I believe that's the one that he killed, a friend of his that he killed in his house. And a ring is missing off the... none of these murders are solved, but I know that a ring is missing off the body that was found on 105th, some type of Scorpio ring, a zodiac sign ring, valued at that time for $10,000. So I think law enforcement knew that they had a loose cannon on their hand, but they couldn't do nothing about it, or was trying to get enough evidence. Like when they asked me, do I know about him committing any of these murders? I said no, or to get some type of evidence to get him. But I think law enforcement knew that they had an informant that was had crossed the line.
Now, where's James Garrett at today?
He died of a heart attack.
When?
I think around 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's been a minute.
When he died of a heart attack, was he living still around here in LA?
When he died, I think they had moved out toward San Bernardino, Riverside County.
So he wasn't in jail or in prison for any of those crimes from the 70s?
He never went to prison from numerous cases where he told and got arrested with people, and never went to jail one time. But back in those days, we were young, and we knew we had an idea that he was working with law enforcement, but we really didn't know because there's never been no snitches, or we wasn't that type of crowd, and we never knew no snitches, so it was something new. And then when I found out that he had testified against Tookie, I called Earl of Foy Hutchinson and called Barbara Becknell, Tookie's right-hand lady, and they sent the attorney down, and I have a legal affidavit that I filed in the courts. I was one of the 3 witnesses that had filed an affidavit at the end of, just before Tookie was getting executed, that was ruled against, which I think they aired on.
How do you think James Garrett felt after Tookie was sentenced to death during the 80s? Because he was certainly still around here doing his thing after 1981 when Tookie was convicted and sentenced to death.
Well, I can't say how he felt because I don't believe a lot of people knew that he testified. Word wasn't on the streets that he testified. Like I say, that happened in '79. That's, 30 years ago, and I'm just not finding out he testified when I informed Tookie's name attorney and investigator, Michelle Gandy, that's impossible for him to be the main witness. He was a suspect in 70. He was considered a serial killer.
Now, what about the evidence that they gathered from Tookie after he was incarcerated in LA County Jail? Apparently they put a snitch cellmate in there to get information from him. What do you know about that?
Well, I don't know personally about that, but I know how that works. And that's one of the problems with our judicial system, to where you have too much assets or law enforcement can tell you information, then you'll turn around. It's called like pressure bust the pipe. You'll have a case where so much pressure to where you'll do anything to get up out of it, and that shouldn't have carried no weight either. Furthermore, those 2 witnesses that filed the affidavit, the affidavit to me was mute, because the court of law would have said they knew about this 25 years ago. So why are you coming now? As opposed to my testimony, which I believe the courts aired and denied in due process of the law, was new information, because nobody's never heard this, because I didn't even know all this transpired till then, and then I informed the courts. So like I say, it's the system that needs to correct it. Not only that, the death penalty period needs to be amended or abolished one way or the other, and that's what we're going to shoot for when we go for this pardon on Tookie.
What do you think about the whole idea that all you need is a witness that already has a criminal background as being a standard to sentencing someone to death and having them executed?
Well, it's not good, and let me show you why. Blackie, one who was given an out-of-state release to Canada because he's a citizen of Canada, that's Alfred Cowles. Without his testimony, you got to remember they had a man that they knew was involved in the murders that they let go. So that ought to put you on alert, the juries or anybody. Why would they be letting a man go that they knew was involved in the murders to tell on a man that they suspected of being a murderer? And that should let you know that their words shouldn't be trusted, and that the police wouldn't have no evidence without for them to let a 4-time murderer go.
Now, Blackie actually testified against Tookie, right?
Mm-hmm.
He claimed that the Whittier murder at 7-Eleven, he was present or participated in it. What eventually happened to Blackie in terms of his sentence or his charge along with Tookie?
Well, Tookie got the death penalty. Tony Sims, which is Bam, got a life without parole, and James Garrett didn't get charged with nothing, and Blackie was given a out-of-the-country release, and he was taken to Canada, by which I heard he's in prison over there now 30 years later. So he was given a trip out the state for his role in the murders and testimony against Tookie.
Now, was Blackie personally known in the neighborhood before all of this happened?
Yeah, Blackie's an original Westside Crip, very reputable, very reputable. Actually, I seen him and Tookie a couple of days before they was arrested in the back of James Garrett yard lifting weights, and I walked up to him and I say, man, I don't know why y'all hanging out over here. I think this dude's a snitch, and y'all be careful. And a little while after that, I heard Tookie was arrested for the murders.
So some people already suspected that Blackie was snitching?
No, that James Garrett was. Okay. No, Blackie never had a snitch jacket on. Never. Very reputable cat until that incident happened.
How do a lot of people feel about Blackie and James that are still here in the neighborhood 30 years later?
Well, you got guys that if they would see him would probably do something to him. Basically, he got a bounty on him until the day he died if they run across him, because that's what real Crips do. So you got those that join gangs and you got those that started gangs. And it's a lot of guys that are inactive. And by the way, this could help the community, because how we gonna talk about saving lives and you have guys out here killing other blacks and robbing and all that. So we're gonna try to change that with that. But I think if they would see something, somebody would try to do something to him because he had that jacket on.
What was the neighborhood like back here in the mid-'70s when Tookie was out here and you guys were hanging out with James Garrett and hanging out at his house? What was the neighborhood in A-Tray like back then?
Like a teen post. Sniffing glue. They daughters, they had 3 or 4 daughters our age. We might party, but a lot of times we could hold our weapons over there, come back after robberies and give it to him. He has set up transactions to where to sell the guns, so we're sitting playing a robbery and might meet over there to take off to go out and party to the farm or whatever. So it's basically like an open house.
You guys were doing all that hustling before the crack era blew up in the 1980s, where people was making millions. How was the money that you guys were hustling in the 70s? Was that satisfactory for that time period?
Well, when you're a robber, you're what they call immediate gratification. And this before cocaine was coming out, before it turned into crack in 1977. And before that, before they started making rock cocaine, which was started here in LA by Dexter Johnson, who was blowing up dope. The Tootie Reese's, the Suge Knights. A kilo of dope was like $52,000 a key. So we wasn't nothing but 17, 15, 14, 13. We wasn't into drugs or couldn't even imagine no money like that. But we was robbing. We might, like for instance, one night we had a friend of mine that was graduating, one of the few that we ever seen graduate. First we went and robbed the tuxedo shop to get the tuxedos. Then we went and robbed the shoe store to get the shoes. And that's the type of things we were doing. But the money we was getting was to us a lot of money. It only costed $250, $500 for a car or something like that.
Now back in the 70s, the main drug that was used by a lot of young people was Sherm. What was that scene like coming up?
Oh, it was chaos. You had mint leaves being sold in pickle jars, selling it out of Church's Chicken. Actually, Big James had caught himself cooking some PCP and had brought an informant police with him where he tried to set us up to go in with him. This when they were staying on 104th behind Zodi's off Crenshaw and Century. And he tried to start it. But when the Sherman come out, it started to open it up a little bit. It was a hustle as opposed to back in those days they were selling 4 fingers of weed for a dime, 2 fingers for $5, sniffing glue, drinking, kryptonite, and all that. The drug scene wasn't a big scene for the gang members.
So James Garrett was, and you guys were mostly making that money through the licks and robberies.
Robberies.
And was James Garrett pretty much the money guy around here during those days?
Nope. As far as what? What do you mean? As far as?
I guess because you said he had all the hookups to sell the
well,
merchandise.
He was, but you got to remember, everybody he was hooking us up with was police, so they had the money. It wasn't no everybody he was turning people on to. He would be involved in it, take his cut up out of there, and then set them up, and they turn around and get a call. We got numerous people here today that tell about instances where Big James did that.
Now, to a certain degree, he was an outsider, even though he lived over here and spent a lot of years, but he moved here from somewhere else, and he was never really a full-fledged member of A-Trade, right?
Well, no, he just was a sympathizer of A-Trade, but I heard that he came from out of Ohio, and then they moved right over here when we met him. They were staying right on 84th, and they just ran with A-Trades.
Now, during that early mid 70s period, it wasn't really no Crips beefing with other Crips. That didn't really start cracking until like 79, 80. What was the Crip scene like with the A-Trades in the 60s and the guys in the hundreds? What was that like on the West Side?
Well, before they went to A-Trade, 60s, 100s, and all that, you only had 3 sets: West Side, East Side, Compton, and Watts was Watts, Georgetown, the projects. But all Crips were united in all fronts. Say the East Side, we was the West Side, Took and all us. That's everybody on the West Side from the 30s all the way down. Then you had the East Side, Raymond Washington, then you had Lil James, Compton, Boot Hill, and Compton. And we was all unified. And that's when the term Crips don't die, they just multiply. We never had no inner beef. And then later on, what actually started the breakup was people trying to be shot callers. And that's when the division came. See, Crips it's a street gang, as opposed to, say, a prison gang. In a prison gang, you got a chain of command. As opposed to a street gang, there's no one person that can tell a group of Crips what to do. Maybe it might be from A-Trade Gangster, it might be from the system, you might can tell them. But that wouldn't be unified with all the other Crips, because everybody now is on an individual basis, whereas to me, they really are in all in the same gang. Crips kill Crips, Bloods to kill Bloods, so colors don't play no role in this.
What do you think was a main factor that got the neighborhoods and the gangsters feuding in 79?
Well, I wasn't there for that, so I couldn't speak on that, but I can let you answer the ones that was there when it started later on in the interview. If they choose to answer it, they can answer.
So what kind of role did James Garrett kind of play in the neighborhood? It doesn't seem like he wasn't no shot caller or anything like that, but he was respected amongst people from this neighborhood at that time, though, right?
Well, it wasn't people. He got his reputation from hanging with me and my other homeboys and stuff like that, which made him reputable. But he was more like I said. We messed it with the children. We had free ring in his house. And he was liked until later on, everybody started suspecting that he was an informant. And then people just started backing up because we wasn't sure. We had never experienced that before.
Now, right before Tookie was executed, there was a Crip guy named Jamel Barnes on TV saying that Tookie should be executed. What is it? How can another Crip speak out such against him during that period?
Well, to me, he probably thought he was going to get paid for being opposite of what he was saying, and he probably thought white folks are paid because he black or used to be a Crip and said this and that. But it's one thing about Jamel. I've been knowing Jamel. He never liked the Tookie. They used to lift weights together. They used to compete together. We'd be at the farm and they go to flexing and they'd compete. And he always was jealous of Took. So misery loved company.
Is a guy like Jamel that talks so much mess about his own people welcomed around certain neighborhoods like here?
Hell no.
No.
Hell no.
Actually, ain't nobody seen Jamel since.
Better not bring this motherfucker. Excuse me.
You can't come over here.
No, excuse me. I'm bullshit. No.
No. Keep it real. You can't come over here.
Now, when you got people like him out there, doesn't it kind of hurt the cause of trying to expose all the issues surrounding Tookie's execution?
Not really, because everybody have opinions. It ain't but a few people that really know what happened. So, like I say, everybody has an opinion, and it ain't whether he was guilty or not in this issue. The issue is, did he get a fair trial, and was there a cover-up? It don't matter about whether he did it or not. It matters, but in this case, it's whether his rights were violated. So whether he was, it's a business. You got corporations that are violent. You got corporations that are violent, and it's very hard. It takes a very hard toll on your family. Very hard. It takes a very hard toll on the 30 years that I did. One thing I learned in the 30 years, a lot of guys in there think that they only hurting themselves. A lot of guys in there think that they only hurting themselves. They'll tell you, in fact, they hurting their mother. My homeboy Hunchy, I had to bury his dad when he was in prison. My homeboy Hunchy, I had to bury his dad not being with your family. We miss them moments of not being with your family. As you have gotten older, when you're younger, buck wild, live forever. It doesn't matter, but as you get older and reflect on it, it doesn't matter, but as you get older and reflect on it, and in front of your eyes, you really know the meaning of life. In front of your eyes, you see the green in the grass, the brown in the dirt, green in the grass, see life and appreciate it, and really know how blessed you was. Really see life and appreciate it, and really know how blessed you was, because quite a few of us
Tookie was in San Quentin from 81. Tookie was in San Quentin 2005. Did 81, 25 plus 2005. He did almost 25 years on death row. Almost. You know a lot of people that are on death row. What do you think it's like? You know a lot of people that are on death row. What do you think it's like death row and being on living, knowing that death row in the future they're trying to take your life away? Knowing that in the future they're trying to take your life away. It has to be well, like I say, a heavy burden on your mind. You're locked up 23 hours. A heavy burden on your mind. You're locked up 23 hours. Everything is done up under the eye. Everything is done up under the eye of a guard or something like that. There's no privacy. One of the things with Tookie, there's no privacy. One of the things getting ready to go to the execution, they let him shower. Getting ready to go to the execution, they let him shower. Hour to the guard, he told the guard, he thanked the guard. And the guard, he told the guard him shower the guard privately, because he had never showered without a guard privately, because he had never showered without a guard there. And all the time that he was incarcerated there. It's very rough. So now, right before Tookie was executed, I think right before Tookie was executed, propaganda, I think the information about Tookie, just to make sure that the governor, information about Tookie, just to make sure that the governor went through, would make one of the rumors that was coming out all of a sudden was one of the rumors that was coming out all of a sudden was that he was the leader of the Crips. Although every call a death row inmate makes, although every recorded a death row inmate makes is recorded that propaganda and monitored, becomes so powerful in the minds of the average person, becomes so powerful in the minds of the average person until wanting to execute Tookie.
Already made up their mind or heard propaganda. Already made up their mind or heard really don't know the system like that, and or really don't know the system, the rules of gangbanging. Or being that or know about the Crips. There is being that or know about the Crips. There is no one, like I said earlier, there's no one man. There's no, like I said earlier, there's no one man that could tell on an individual basis. We're going to do this and on an individual basis. People choose to believe what they want to believe. People choose to believe what they want to believe. There was so much pressure. You have to remember there was so much pressure, tough on crime. You have to remember the governor hands were tied. The governor hands were tied. Him one to one for president. Behind, I think him one to one for president. And I think as well as the propaganda, and like for instance, as well as the propaganda, 3 strikes law, like for instance, when the 3 strikes law was amended, and the governor came out and said amended. And the governor came out and said it would and serious criminal. Thousands of that was propaganda, and it was serious criminal because that was propaganda. 3 strikes only affect when you have a minor offense. 3 strikes only affect when you have a minor offense. That's when it turns opposed to anybody's sentence. Whereas under 3 strikes law, that with a violent offense, strikes was eligible for life. With a violent offense, which he was eligible for life. So a lot of times we have people that say propaganda. So a lot of times we have people that say propaganda. There's nobody that hated that I was in jail on both those issues. I hated that I was in jail on both those issues. Going back because I went right to the governor's door.
Now, one of the things that didn't really come out a lot. Now, one of the things that didn't really come out a lot have prior to a disciplinary that he did not have his folder disciplinary 15 years folder and 15 years to him changing and him really testament to reevaluating and him the really course of his life, reevaluating
very hard
course of his life,
or being a very hard model affiliated or being inmate, just a model prison inmate as opposed to a convict. Just hard to go inmate getting the right up. Just hard to go without getting the right up. This is how the board will use that against. This is how the board will use that against. Go to the board and you messed up, they deny you. Go to the board and you messed up, they deny you. And then if you would go without having any discipline, and then if you would go they without having any manipulating status, they would say manipulating status. So it's usually like my last 10, 15 years, like my last 10, 15 years because you mellow out. I didn't get in trouble either because you mellow out when you first come in 18, 19, as opposed to 4 day for day come out when you kill somebody. It might not 4 day for day come out when you kill somebody. It might not get which they weren't doing, but the Mexican mafia, which they weren't doing, because a lot of people don't know what the Crips went through. At an early age, people don't know what fighting the Mexican mafia at an early age in prison, fighting the Mexican mafia. The moves from here it is, you got 19, 18-year-old. The moves from here it is, you got 19, 18 harm to black, coming from just coming off the civil rights. Harm to black, so it's a very just coming off the civil rights. So it's a very violent, during the late 70s, up to almost the 90s. During the late 70s.
So during the 70s, when the very first Crips were getting arrested, they were obviously outnumbered. They ain't like today. Crip could walk on the yard. They were obviously outnumbered. They ain't like today. Crip in the early 70s when you had all these other groups. Were they the targets of all these other groups? Were they the targets of animosity from these other prison groups?
They was so bad in Tracy you had to shower with your clothes on. It was so bad in Tracy you had to shower with your clothes on. During that time, like I say, you couldn't get that much time. During that time, like I say, they didn't have that much time. You wouldn't nobody somebody, but who gonna tell you an incident that happened at White? Nobody else come to court to tell you an incident that happened at White. Jose Trejo got killed. Jose Trejo got killed. Watching the Super Bowl 1977. They're watching the Super Bowl 1977. Denver Broncos. Everybody else had 1-8. Everybody else had 1-8 right next to me right here. Jose Trejo was sitting right next to me right from around the neck with a good toss. One Mexican grabbed him from around the neck. Two more jumped over the seat and held his arm down. Two more jumped over the seat and held his arm down. And all we did, it was me, Troy, Puff Black, Tyrone Troy. That is Black, Tyrone shows. The man that is killed right here on my side. The man getting killed sitting right here on my side. And I noticed every time they hit him when they pulled out from his neck. And I noticed every time they hit him when they pulled out from his neck. So then, back then they had counselors. So then, back then they had counselors. They ran in there to break it up. They ran them out. They ran in there to break it up. Slammed the door. They ran them out. They went and turned the television down. And then after they killed him, they turned the TV up and said, and then after they killed him, they turned the TV up and said, this loud. To show you how it was no telling. But to show you how it was taking to court to go testify, we was taking to court to go testify. We said we didn't see that. Those the type of cat occur. But those guys that was killed. You heard of Love that was killed. Overheard of Love that was killed. Over the water that was a twin. That was the shoe program. That was a twin. We had told him to stay off the gates. We had told him to stay off the gates. And they came out of jail because they was here. They came out of jail. So they wasn't talking about it. It was they wasn't talking about on site. So it's basically that went on site. It was on.
Now Tookie was the first gang member to be executed. Tookie was the first gang member to be executed. Guys that are on after Tookie's arrest, death row. A bunch of other guys they should be having dates coming up soon. Death row. They should be having a big coming up soon. Within the next, I guess, 5 years. Is it going to be Crips and Bloods? I guess 5 years. A bunch of their cases and Bloods in the early '80s that soon to be executed in the early '80s. Soon to be executed.
Yeah, because they processes fit a hawk. That's what happened. Processes fit a hawk. That's what happened. He couldn't go no death row inmate. Gets his case appealed. Death row inmate gets his case court of the United States, all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States, as opposed to determined sentence, somebody that has a set date. Determined sentence, somebody that has a set date. You only get a attorney. Actually, a lot of people don't know. You only get an attorney at the first level, which you would have to fight the judicial system on your own, which you would have to fight the judicial system on your own, with a system that has all the money, as well as system that has all the money, as well as attorneys that went to. So what's going to end up happening is what's going to be big. So what's going to end up happening? California State, what's going to be big business in this. California men are getting at the edge of where, because a lot of men are getting at a lot of edge of where their dates are coming up and a lot of executions are going to take place. I think we have inmates on death row, as well as those that are sitting in the county jails, as well as those that are sitting in the county jails or waiting to get sentenced. As opposed to waiting to get sentenced, get executed in 4 or 5 days. As opposed to Virginia, Los Angeles, California takes 5 days, 25 years. Los Angeles, California takes.
Now, if you had an opportunity to speak with the governor, the death penalty and about Williams' case, death penalty and Stanley Tookie Williams' case, what would you tell?
I would tell him that. It's like this. It's like to have the death penalty. But if you do have the death penalty, because it's certain but if you do make it to where anybody, because it's certain crimes. If you're gonna have the death penalty, make it to where if you get found, don't have the death penalty, make it to where if you get found guilty, and that's fair. Everyone and all. Then everybody will know the rules when they go in to do. Then everybody will know the rules when they go in to do whatever they do. That if they do this. But as the way that is presently stand now, but I would tell way that is presently stand now, I would tell him would need to put a moratorium out on them like they did in the Illinois, moratorium out on them like they did in the Illinois, turn around and abolish the death penalty and abolish the death penalty. And that Tookie Williams case, and that he should be granted a pardon on the new testimony that I have, and the evidence that on the new testimony that I have, and the evidence that I'm bringing forth.
That's a reality. Do you think that could happen within the near future, whether it's Governor Schwarzenegger or a new governor that comes in, whether it's Governor Schwarzenegger or a new governor that comes in, penalty cases in California?
Well, I think that we've seen where we've had quite a few innocent people, where we've had quite a few innocent people have been exonerated from being on death row 20, 15, 20 years, then from being on death row 20, 15, 20 years, then DNA. So we see that there is a flaw in the system. So we see that there is just flaw in the system. Person life, that ought to be enough. One innocent person death penalty. That ought to be enough to where.
Have we had anyone on California's death row had their sentences? Have we had anyone on California's death row had their sentences commuted to life?
Got C-Dub, which is yes, on the Alexander murder, which is fee. On the Alexander murder, gotten off fee, released off death row, and received life without released off death row. We have Bill Frierson, who was the first one, Bill Frierson, death penalty in 77, first one to get death penalty in 77 when it was executed. Reenacted, I heard that he's off death row. We've had inmates who had days off death row. We've had inmates who had days. Chico, you got Chico. And Chico that had life, Chico, and he got his. He's off that had life, and he got his.
So in terms of this whole case, so in terms of this whole, what are some of your final thoughts against Tookie? What are some of your final thoughts? Don't take the time to people who find out. Don't take the time information that people would not normally find out, hear from their local information that they would not normally hear from their local media.
Public should first weigh all the evidence. Public should first weigh all the evidence standpoint, from the information that I've seen, and from the information that I've heard but seen, and witnessed from my mouth, my eyes, and other witnessed from my mouth, my eyes, and other James Garrett, and the witnesses all that were involved, and the witnesses all that were involved, as far as the Stanley Tookie Williams. And that I think I said it again. I think we have enough. And that I think evidence and enough testimony to where a couple of testimony to where Stanley Tookie Williams trial. and whereas law enforcement purposely withheld evidence, whereas law enforcement exonerated withheld evidence could have exonerated him.
A lot of people weren't impressed when Tookie was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. When Tookie was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, for a Nobel Peace Prize, but anyone could get nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. Heard of being nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize? Have you ever heard of being nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize?
Not only does it mean something, and it does. Not only does it mean something, and it does mean something because look at all the people, and that go the same way. It just depends on the situation. And that go the same way. It just depends on the situation. Look how many people out of all the people in the world. Look how many people that got to be out of all the people in the world you can have. That got to be one of the worst. All the things you can do in the world. Out of all the things you can do in the world. That's when it does mean something. That's when it was an honor for him. And it was an honor for him to be nominated. And we were all proud of it. Nominated. None of us. We were all proud of it. None of us have been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. Or even thought about being nominated under the circumstances. But up under the circumstances, that's what it took. A sad thing that's what it took. Open up your eyes to the death penalty, to death for somebody. Open up your eyes to the death penalty, to death for somebody. We've seen a lot of death. But one thing we've seen a lot of death. I learned that. And one thing we usually have a message in. Most deaths usually have a message in, and whether you acknowledge, read what the message is, and acknowledge what the message is, you'll never get it.